Things just took a major turn for the New York Rangers. After their worst performance of the season, they followed up with a win in the biggest game of the season to keep their playoff hopes very much alive heading into the Four Nations face-off break. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel, so if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the New York Rangers, game reactions, trades, all that stuff heading into the deadline and the playoffs, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. A much better effort from some players tonight, that is for sure. And I mean, they picked up a huge win tonight. I mean, they needed to win this game. If you lose this game, I would kiss the playoffs goodbye. But at this point, not even close to being ready to do that. And after last night, it was looking like that. We were all feeling pretty down. But a couple big performances from players that you need big performances from. Mika Zibanejad, the man whose jersey hangs to my right. Big game tonight. He's been playing much better since he's been moved to the wing. The man whose jersey hangs to my left won them this game tonight with a good performance. And honestly, just putting the puck to the net, sometimes that's all you got to do. So big performances from these two guys. Zibanejad with a great shot. Didn't like how the Rangers allowed Columbus to climb back into this game and also take charge of this game at one point, right? It was not looking good. And Jonathan Quick, too. May I just say before we move on to everything here, he made some big saves tonight. He made some huge saves tonight to keep this team in the game. We're going to hit some negatives. We're going to get back to the optimism, to the positives in a second. Ryan Lingren pretty much has to be traded at this year's trade deadline. There is no room for him, I think, on this team anymore. Going forward, I should say. They can definitely keep him the rest of this year, but to re-sign him would be a major mistake. So I feel like he might be done with this team. Again, he's been a warrior for this team. The defensive lapses as of late is just, I think, too much. And he's costing them on a lot of plays, and he's been playing, again, I know that Fox is not back here, but he's been playing predominantly with Fox most of the time. Your, best defenseman per se, at least offensive defenseman, that's for sure. But anyway, Artemi Kaliyev. I made a video a couple days ago about, what was going on with Artemi Kaliyev. He played a few games when he was first claimed. Then we haven't seen much of him lately. He gets into this game. I said it yesterday where I was like, hey, I think he's going to get into this game because it's the second half of a back-to-back. The lineup, by the way, to start the game, VC on the first line, I don't know what was going on, but they came out with the win. That's fine. Artemi Kaliyev using his speed, his skill, and his size to drive the net here. He doesn't see a lane. He gets the wraparound attempt, puts it in the back of the net, he scores. I love this goal. I love this effort. Early in the game to put the Rangers up 1-0. Obviously, Columbus stormed back a little bit. Took over the game for a while. Didn't like that part too much, but I like Artemi Kaliyev's game. I do, and I feel like he could be a player that come playoff time, using his speed, his physicality, could be, he used his body here, right? He was driving the net. He didn't see a lane. He continued to use his speed around the net, wrapped it in the back of the net. And it was a nice goal. It was a really nice goal to start the game, so I love that. To see that from Artemi Kaliyev. Again, I don't know if he's going to be a difference maker, but I think this was a really sneaky good waiver pickup earlier this season. And he's going to continue to do his thing when he gets into games. And I think that, tonight after scoring, we'll probably see a little bit more of him when they come back from the Four Nations face-off. But we'll see. This is going to be a bit of a long layover, and we'll see how that plays out. And Will Cooley, the man whose jersey hangs to my left once again, with a big performance tonight. This was the game-winning goal with 1:40 left. And can I just say that the last two games, the performance in the third period, really not allowing that many shots, has been impressive. Obviously, last night you would like to see them score a goal and try and win the game, that's for sure. But an impressive game nonetheless, or third periods, I should say. Third period performances in terms of the defensive side not allowing shots on goals. So did want to shout that out. And again, 1:40 left. Cooley just breaks through the defense here. He just kept pushing. This is what he does. Keeps skating, keeps pushing, and he gets the goal here. Love to see that. That was great. And again, I wanted to point out that the lines coming into tonight, crazy. There's a lot going on there. Cooley gets promoted, which I think was a good thing as well, and we saw that tonight. He ends up getting the goal, but he was promoted to start the game. But that line, and I think it has to do, and I have to touch on it again because he's been terrible defensively. Lafreniere, and I know it's not just his fault, and that is not, the entire flaw with this team. Lafreniere's defensive play is not what's wrong with this team, right? But it's a problem. It is a problem, and the line was getting absolutely torched off the counterattack tonight, off the rush specifically, like Vince Mercogliano says here, and it was costing the Rangers in this game up until they won. So that was a real issue. That's something that Lafreniere has to address over the break, and Laviolette has to, work on with him. This, like, you are going to be, like, you're not a 19-year-old player anymore in this league. Like, let's get going here. Let's start to buff up your defensive game a little bit, because if you're going to play on the second line, you can't be that much of a liability. So it's going to be interesting, and I wanted to bring this up too. And I think in talking about Brennan Othmann, right, I think that he deserves a look as well with this team, because there are a couple guys that seem checked out at times. And I think Zibanejad has been playing better, but there's guys like Kreider, VC, Lingren, who do look checked out this year, maybe not mentally as sharp as previous years. They're costing the Rangers some plays, some games to a degree. And Stephen Valiquette in the post game, after yesterday's embarrassing effort, we called it, right? Like, it was not a great game. He said that the players know if you're in or if you're out, basically. Mentally, physically, all of this. You can tell. You can tell. As a fan, you can tell which players are locked in right now. You can when you watch the games. And it looks to me that a lot of players are teetering on the out. I think this was an interesting quote, and I didn't see it last night at the time of recording the video, but us fans can see it as well. Kreider, VC, Lingren have checked out, and I'd bring up Othmann, Berard, and Brandstrom. Now, Brandstrom, he deserves a look with this team. Totally agree, and I think that you have to move Lingren at this year's trade deadline. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, if they should keep Lingren, what your thoughts are. I think that they absolutely have to trade Lingren for some type of assets at this year's trade deadline. Anything, because there's no way you're resigning him. Now, Othmann, I think he deserves a look too. And Berard, when he's played this year, has looked great. He's not the biggest player, but he plays like he's big, right? Like, he's in on the forecheck. He's not afraid to throw hits. He scored a couple goals, right? So I think he's a guy that deserves another look as well. Even if you have to, you have to make the salary cap work. But even if you bench a couple of these guys for a game, Kreider, I know he scored a shorthanded goal the other day. Even if you bench a Kreider, just to send a message to a couple of these guys, it is not good enough, right? So I think it's going to be interesting heading forward who they call up if they decide to do something like that. But I do agree to an extent with Stephen Valiquette where, Kreider, VC, Lingren look a little checked out at times. Lingren, again, I think you have to move off of him at this year's trade deadline. Brandstrom deserves a look at the NHL level again. There's some Vancouver Canucks fans. Some people, really think highly of this player still. They really do. And even on Canucks Digest, I have to give a shout out to Griffin. Big fan of Eric Brandstrom. So I would like to see what he looks like at the NHL level in a New York Rangers uniform. So it's going to be interesting. Berard, we know, has been good. Othmann, I think, deserves a look this season. One last thing I want to bring up before I wrap up the video here is if you just look at this screenshot, Mika Zibanejad passed this. He passed this in a tie game. Shoot the puck, Mika. Shoot the puck. We need more goals out of you. But obviously, I think that'll come with him on the top line right wing. Didn't start there tonight, but I think that, he will start to get going. He's played a lot better as of late, so I have to give credit where credit is due because he's been, one of the guys all season that we've been talking about. So Mika Zibanejad is unselfish by nature, and he tried to get this to Chris Kreider. Look where Chris Kreider is here. He is so far away. Just shoot the puck. And Joe said to get selfish on this play. So I totally agree. Obviously, you're about halfway through the third here. It was a tie game. A little frustrating. Shoot the puck there. Kreider's a long ways away there. So I thought that was funny. Just wanted to bring that up before we wrap up. But let me know what you think about Ryan Lingren and even Stephen Valiquette's point here of, maybe sending a message. Scratch some of these guys. Call up like a Brendan Othmann. Call up a Brett Berard, Brandstrom, just to inject some more legs into the lineup because, yes, they've been playing better as of late. But after what happened last night, I am a little scared. About what this team is going to do. But they are in a much better position heading into the Four Nations face-off. I will say that. They're only 3 points out of a wild card spot, so they're in a much better position. But let me know what you think about the games of Mika Zibanejad tonight. Artur Kaliyev had a big game. Ryan Lingren, should they move off of him at the trade deadline? I think so. And Will Cooley, huge game for Will Cooley. I think buying his jersey was probably a pretty good decision. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.